reminder to kindly keep mobile phones in the silent mode. Mr. Chandrashekhar is among the first successful entrepreneurs of India's telco revolution. He was an entrepreneur in tech and media before he entered fully into politics and governance. He is serving his third term as Member of Parliament in the Upper House and brings unique domain experience into his current role as Minister of State for Electronics and IT, Skill Development and Entrepreneurship.
आत्मनिर्भर भारत।
विश्व की आज की स्थिति हमें सिखाती है कि इसका मार्ग एक ही है, आत्मनिर्भर भारत।
A mission to use the COVID crisis as a growth opportunity, a vision for a self-reliant India, the very foundation of India's journey to a $10 trillion economy. But no talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat is complete without putting the focus on India's digital economy. The Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology has set an ambitious target, a 1,000-day agenda to build a $1 trillion digital economy.
We also celebrate the last 7 years of Digital India and the empowerment and the inclusion that Digital India unleashed across the country. Looking forward to India at 2047.
Joining us at the India Economic Summit 2021 is the Minister of State for Electronics and IT, Mr. Rajeev Chandrashekhar.
Mr. Chandrashekhar. Please welcome the Minister of State for Electronics and IT, Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Mr. Rajeev Chandrashekhar. Talking to him, Arnab Goswami and Republic TV's Executive Editor, Law and Governance, Rhythm Bharadwaj.
Thank you very much, everyone, for coming back. I hope charged for the post-lunch session. Should we serve some coffee around the tables to wake you all up? You're fine? So thank you very much, Rajeev.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rhythm. I just want to say first, Rajeev, how wonderful it is to see you. And I think we are meeting after a year and a half.
Yeah, 19 months minimum, I think. 19
months minimum. So it's great to see you, and great to see you in your role now as congratulations.
Thank you.
For joining the ministry. And Rajeev, on a personal note, has been a great friend, supporter, not just a supporter, the person who has believed in the Republic dream, media tech entrepreneur, tech background, as Rini rightly said, set the stage for a fiery start to India's telecom revolution. If you're seeing the telecom revolution today, this is the man who was at the forefront, not pulling his punches, not too long back, and now headlong into politics. For a formal introduction, now Union Minister of State for very interesting combination of ministries. Rhythm?
Yes.
You want to, yeah. Entrepreneurship?
Yes. Entrepreneurship, skill development, electronics and technology.
Yeah.
Rajeev Chandrashekhar joining us today, and we can kickstart Orna by asking, of course, about something very close to everyone's heart. Certain people, doomsday prophets, who tried to say that things will not go well, but India defied that, Mr. Chandrashekhar. How do you look at it? And the larger picture, were there doubts in between?
Yeah, so just elaborating on that, Rajeev, this is not a political summit. It is about economics, but sometimes they intersect. And last year we saw certain opposition leaders, we saw many going berserk. They said it is the end of the Indian economy, right? And we have shown a different way. Rahul Gandhi said Today I'm saying our country won't be able to give jobs. If you don't agree, then wait for 6 to 7 months. August 2020. P. Chidambaram in February this year said, you are still not learning the lessons of the last 36 months. I am afraid that as a result of your not learning the lessons, another 12 months will be lost. The poor will suffer and continue to suffer greatly. Question to you, are we suffering? How did the doomsday prophets get it wrong? Did you have doubts in between? What has the journey been like? Rajeev.
So, Arnab, thank you for having me and thank you for that warm welcome. Look, I think, the doomsday prophets, they do what they do, they say what they say, but it's important for all of us to understand, and in this economic summit, the journey that India has traveled over the last 19 months is something that we all should be extremely proud of. When COVID hit, and I'm going to take give you a slightly longer answer to this, Arnab. When COVID hit us in March of 2020 or February, depending on where you mark D-Day, we were finishing a financial year. We were close to completing $2.4 trillion economy. We took a little bit of a hit in that year. But it was clear that the impact of this unprecedented global pandemic would be deep, it would be far-reaching, and it was already showing signs of disruptions of global supply chains, demand, destruction, lives and livelihoods. And it was obviously that, along with that first quarter lockdown that caused a minus 24.9% contraction in the economy, had everybody clearly worried, uncertain about what the future held. Nobody had the virus. Nobody knew what the virus was. Nobody had the cure for it. And so there was all of this. But if you look at the journey of India from July 2020 to today, it has been a remarkable journey of steady hand at the wheel by the Prime Minister, a series of calibrated policy actions, amidst absolute uncertainty. We were navigating as a nation in the dark, stormy waters, all of that perfect storm scenario. And to top it, as if the job wasn't difficult enough, you had all these so-called experts, including the finance minister who ran the economy to the ground between 2018 to 2014, and a dynast politician who's never worked a day in his life, trotting out economic advice, saying India was not doing as much as the US, India was not doing this, India was not doing that. And I summarize my feeling today to those statements in a very small way. I like to use this phrase often in politics, which is that the best revenge is success. And there is no need to get into the head of these people who say what they say, who do what they do, excepting today to show to them how India is today one of the fastest growing economies in the world. It is receiving the highest amount of FDI in the world. Its bounce back as an economy has been amazingly, it is something that professors of economics must do case studies on. And we have managed to do this with absolute social order. And I say social order because compared this to what is happening in the US even today, where there are riots and there are anti-vaxxers and vaxxers, and we have navigated this ship through stormy waters and managed to deliver between January 2021 and October 21st, 2021, 1 billion vaccine shots. Now, you call them doomsday prophets. I call them, I would use stronger words for them.
Please do.
That question their intelligence and their very locus to comment on these things. But we are where we are today. We are extremely strong. We are a confident nation. The fact that we have made this journey of these last 19 months with such tremendous amount of results at the end of that journey gives us even more confidence about what the future holds for us. So I would urge your audience, those present here and those watching, that going forward, and as the Prime Minister said on August 15th, as he brought in the 75th year of independence, believe in this one line, yahi samay hai, yahi samay hai. And I don't say this out of I'm not making this a political slogan, but this is really the time for India. And we have tailwinds of the kind that we have never had before. We have a confidence like the kind that we have never had before in terms of navigating these future opportunities that are in front of us.
Absolutely. Rhythm, you want to take the next one?
Absolutely. You've been speaking a lot about internet government policies. You've been talking about a new law that needs to be there. India, in fact, is leading this because as an intermediary, we're the only country that's actually trying to have regulation. So how are we, Mr. Chandrashekhar, going to go ahead and balance out free speech versus national sovereignty?
Look, I think I don't necessarily agree with the way the question was phrased, but let me just respond anyway to broadly this issue of internet and regulating the internet. The internet in 2021 is become a force multiplier as we have all experienced in the last 19 months. I mean, or maybe pre-COVID, internet was, the tech space was more involved in it. And currently, over the last 19 months, the digitization of our lives has been so total, so deep, so intense, and so complete that today, whether you are in Nagaland in the northeast, or you're in Srinagar in the north, or any part of India, any district of India, one of the key requirements of a citizen is the internet. Now, 80 crore Indians are online, 120 crore Indians are going to be online in the next 3 years, and the internet today is not what the internet was 5 years ago, and what was 5 years ago was not what it was 10 years ago. Things are changing at a velocity which is only the internet velocity. And therefore, the rules and the laws which have been either absent or have been cursory in terms of keeping the cyberspace and the growth of the cyberspace in an orderly manner have to come into place. And the way we are doing this today, and I don't think there is a binary between this is not a binary between free speech and anything else. We as a government are committed to everybody on the internet, every intermediary being accountable to his or her user, or his or her as a platform's user. And we see ourselves as custodians of Article 14, 19, and 21 of the Constitution, i.e., every user, every Indian user on the internet, whether he's a user of republic.com or facebook.com or any other intermediary, has to be guaranteed that he or she is not discriminated against, he or she has a right to free speech subject to 19(2), and he or she has got the right to privacy under Article 21. So there is absolutely no reason for us to censor. There is no role for the state to censor. I know, Rhythm, the point that you are referring to is to do with the INB, Ministry's rules on the digital media space, and that is sub judice, and that is in the courts, so I will not comment on that.
No, but just to elaborate there, you referred to two basic issues which come in when we talk about laws. Just to carry on that point a little, Rajeev, there are two issues which emerge. One very pressing issue of data privacy and the fact that we do not have control over the data. The fact of the matter is that the data is not in our control, in our geography, or under our legal or regulatory permit. That is a point of concern, especially when we allow unlimited access. So that is one point I'd like you to first respond on. Do you feel, as both a domain expert and a minister, that aspects legally needs to be looked at first?
Absolutely. I think the fact that we are one of the largest data producing nations in the world and one of the largest data consuming nations in the world, we have a robust data economy. We have entrepreneurs today and unicorns at the rate of two every month that are all essentially operating on the internet economy and the data economy. Makes it very clear that there needs to be some rules and regulations about the data and how it is consumed, how it is stored, who can consume it, who can use it, all of that. Along with the fact that privacy is a fundamental right. Privacy, the Supreme Court has found under Article 21, is a fundamental right. So finally, there is a simple cardinal rule that guides us in the ministry and the government that the consumer is the owner of his or her data. The consumer's consent has to be sought if his or her data has to be used by an intermediary. And it is precisely keeping in line with that jurisprudence that the government proposed a data protection bill that was then referred to a joint parliamentary committee of which I was a member till the time I became a minister. And then that committee is, in my understanding, going to submit the report on the first day of Parliament or the second day of Parliament, or 29th or the 30th of the month. And that hopefully will then get debated in Parliament and become legislation. It is the single biggest first step to creating an overarching legislative architecture around the internet, around the consumers and the users of the internet, and around the intermediaries who use the data of the consumers.
Do you think there'll be any pushback?
No, look, this is a question about that I'm asked often, that will this bill be perfect? Will there be some people who will dissent with the bill? Will there be arguments against the bill? And I always say the simple thing, simple commonsensical response, which is legislations in the internet space will be evolving. So what happens in 2021 will not necessarily be the legislation that will be in place 2023. The entire framework of the internet, the framework of user harm on the internet, the framework of criminality on the internet, all of these things are rapidly evolving at a rate that is much faster than normal governments can keep pace with. So I think as long as we get a framework that is solid on principles, which protects the consumer, creates a regime of accountability on the intermediaries, the nature of the accountability and the nature of the laws can continuously evolve, either as subordinate legislations or rules that the Data Protection Authority or any regulator will frame.
But there will be, I think, Rhythm, the critical point that Mr. Chandrashekhar is putting out, there will be soon a proper law, a regulatory framework on issues of data privacy in the country. And I think he's quite clear about going there.
That's 100%. That I can assure you. Without,
and within a month or so, within this Parliament session?
No, I think very soon. I mean, I have no way of predicting how Parliament will respond and function, but I can assure you that the country will, and the Prime Minister is very keen on delivering this one very important piece of legislation that will guide the overall architecture and framework.
Which takes me to the next one, which Rhythm can really evaluate. But as we were looking at the recent debate on cryptocurrency, and nobody at the end of a 1 week of debate, nobody really asked a question on whether there needs to be regulation. But when it started, day one of the debate, Rajeev, the debate was about, you're killing young investors and you're killing young entrepreneurial spirit. The whole positioning of the cryptocurrency initially debate was creativity, freedom, youth, what is cool on one side, opposite a fuddy-duddy government system which wants to regulate free spirit. I'm not talking about whether that was the content, but I think you understand that was the spirit. That is the kind of advertising and campaign went on. 6 days of debate, people started asking questions. What are KYC protocols? What is the legal tender? These debates were not even there in the public debate earlier. Similarly, taking from that, Rhythm can put this question to you. Is there not, Mr. Chandrashekhar, very, very importantly, a need for some law on social media, this IT? What is your view? Rhythm, you want to take that question on whether there'll be a similar law?
As you spoke about it, Mr. Chandrashekhar, it's also going to be clear that India is going to be leading country to have a legislation on IT rules, because it's something we've not done earlier. Not only IT, but like you said, the internet policies. How should this framework be drawn up so that we can quickly have it like Orna was asking?
So I'll go back to the point I made earlier, that the changes and the velocity of change on the internet is something that nobody can predict. And if anybody even today pretends to be some sort of a crystal ball gazer and say this is what technology is going to be like in 2 years, he's had an extra coffee or he's had something else that is extra. So that you can just discount that. I believe that as long as our legal framework is evolutionary and it is flexible and is able to respond to these new ideas and new innovations in technology, that should be the framework. Let me quickly respond to both what you're asking and what Arnab said. In my opinion, Rhythm, currently we have a legislation that governs the technology space, which is the IT Act 2000, which is about 21 years old. It was last amended in 2008, and I was in Parliament when it was amended. It was amended during the UPA with about 2 minutes of debate. So, and that act, interestingly enough, does not even mention the word internet. So, 21 years in internet time is about 400 years in real time. So, I think you can make a commonsensical argument that it is time for a new law. And it is something that our ministry and the team at METI is fairly clued up on, and we have made some progress on that in terms of outlining what ought to be the framework of a new law. And I think it is realistic to expect that post the data protection bill, somewhere into the future there will be a new digital law or something which may be even an amended IT Act. So that is to answer your question. To just quickly touch on crypto, Arnab, I just want to assure your audience and the people who are assembled here and those watching, that this is far from being a fuddy-duddy government. We are, in my opinion, this is one of the governments where, starting from the Prime Minister down to the Joint Secretary in our ministry, everybody is heavily invested in understanding technology and how technology can empower every Indian. So we kind of get it. Yeah. And we know that the power of technology to do good and to transform and empower is huge, and we want to capitalize and completely use it as much as possible. On the issue of crypto, even though it doesn't pertain to my ministry, I just want to just clarify one thing. The suggested law that I've read in the newspapers does not ban crypto. It does not ban blockchain. No. Innovation around the blockchain, innovation around Web 3.0, all of that is intact, and India will be a leader in that, I can assure you. But what it has done is says that there will be a central bank digital currency. Of course. And so, in a sense, it takes away the volatility out of the picture, it takes away the speculations out of the picture, which is a good thing, because essentially you don't want the young Indian who is fascinated with Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency to be led into a speculative bubble, which is either not an asset-backed crypto or it's not a central bank-backed crypto. So there is no ban on crypto. I just wanted to tell you that.
Absolutely not. Even Nouriel Rubini, who's joining us later in the evening today, did compliment the government's attempts earlier of trying to put a legal tender to digital currency. I know, I want to push the point here.
Just one second. I just give a little PR for my government. Actually, in areas of crypto and in digital internet regulation, we are leading the world. On these IT rules, for example, Rhythm and Arnab, we are the first ones who have created rules that create this conversation about accountability of intermediaries to the users. So in a lot of ways, as the largest connected country in the world, we are leading the world and showing the way.
I agree with you. I think we have ushered in a paradigm shift, Rajeev, in digital accountability. You passed the new IT rules, holding big tech intermediaries accountable for the content posted on their platforms. So push it further, Rhythm. The question here is when, how, where. He did indicate that after the data localization bill. So are we looking at a time frame? Are we looking at a detailed consultative process? Or is it going to be one shot? Has the government more or less decided what it wants to do in terms of holding these big tech intermediaries responsible for the content?
No, so one of the signature things for our government is that any policies that we make in the tech space will be consultation-led. And as we speak today, there is the first ever India Internet Governance Forum that is being held. We have signaled that we believe in multi-stakeholderism, that the biggest stakeholders of the internet are the consumers on the internet. Correct. And that any new law, any new policy will only evolve after deep, extensive, broad-based consultation with the user community as well as the investor and the business community.
Right. Rhythm?
I also wanted to ask you, this is very positive, we're all looking forward to this regulation, but India is also brimming with confidence. We're coming out like a global leader. I wanted to know the vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat and also India leading as an ecosystem for startups.
Now, Atmanirbhar Bharat is a very important point, and I think some people have understood it and some people may not have understood the implication of it. I think it is a departure from the old Western style, Western economist-led economic modeling that we have followed for many years in this country. And I think the intuition and the experience of our Prime Minister during COVID, where he did not fall prey to all of these Western economic theories, saying stimulus, 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 but instead he played a very, very measured, calibrated economic planning model which focused on the vulnerable, which focused on the Prime Minister Garib Kalyan Yojana, which focused on the MSMEs in terms of fiscal support, but allowed the larger companies to grow and give them all kinds of non-fiscal support to continue to weather the storm. we have seen now a sense of confidence, and you can see today the amount of foreign direct investment coming into the country. We are the largest recipient of foreign direct investment amongst all the nations of the world. We are the only double-digit growth country in this in the entire global economy. So I think Atmanirbhar Bharat is about an economic model that capitalizes heavily on Indian entrepreneurship, Indian economic thinking, and becoming over time a global provider of products and services to the world with that kind of confidence. And I think the startups, the fact that we have created 2 unicorns every month in this year, and the energy that the startups have unleashed, have permanently altered the economic model from those 6 or 7 large groups that dominated the Indian economy for decades, to a large part of this energy and innovation and vitality in the Indian economy being driven by entrepreneurship, big, small, rural, urban, technology, non-technology. I think startups are the force multiplier for the Indian economy, and that is why the Honorable Prime Minister has repeatedly focused and emphasized the energy and the character of this whole startup ecosystem.
Absolutely. Last question here. You began the comments by talking about the minister who wrecked. You said the minister who wrecked the economy? Mr. Chidambaram? You're referring to Mr. Chidambaram?
Of course. He has a name.
Of course.
He has a name. Yes.
He has a name? Oh, I like that directness. So you said that Chidambaram wrecked the economy, but there was also a crisis then. There was the 2008 crisis, right? Yeah. You're saying the government did not respond differently. So, okay, how would you compare your government's response to a black swan event during COVID to the Congress government's response to what happened after the Lehman Brothers crash globally?
And I think that's a good question for this economic summit. If you look at 2008, it was a global financial crisis that basically hit the banking systems of the world. And I don't need to labor the point, but you know the result of the fiscal responses and the responses, policy actions of the then Congress-led government. It basically created crony capitalism, NPAs, runaway inflation, investors fleeing, and that broke the financial sector, and that remained broken till 2014-15, till Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji started rebuilding the financial sector. And this is not some tall claim. Anybody who just Googles it can see that 2008 to 2014 were the worst time economically for either as an investor or from governance or policy action point of view. And contrast that with a far more complex, far heavily multidimensional crisis that we faced, which had to do with the healthcare crisis, it had to do with the global economic crisis, and we had a security crisis in the north of our borders. And we handled all of those 3 things and have come out of the crisis 19 months on, more confident than ever, the economy chugging away at a rate of 10% plus, the fastest growing economy in the world, the highest amount of investment that any country is receiving, startups being created at 2 a month, and you decide for yourself. Which of the dream team, so-called dream team of 2008, what they delivered for this country, and what our Prime Minister, who's criticized day in and day out for things he does, his results and what he has left for the country, and the state that he has built the economy back after this unprecedented crisis. You judge for yourself. I know the answer, but I don't want to volunteer my answer. You judge for yourself.
I'll let the audience judge for itself. We are on good track. Rajeev, Chandrashekhar, such a pleasure. So much energy on stage. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rajeev. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Minister Chandrashekhar, Arnab and Rhythm for that session.